we go to the Creation Museum, and the last 2 years we've done 7 weeks there doing programs at the Creation Museum, similar to what we did here at the school. And for some reason, these slides got into this program, and so I thought I'd go ahead and use them. You know what I'm talking about? Dr. Matzko strikes his wife in public. Okay, so we were doing a program 2 years ago, and we're up on the stage there in the Legacy Hall. How many of you have been to the Creation Museum? Anybody? There's a few of you, okay. And you can see what happened. I was explaining, we had these big suction cups, and I was explaining how a couple young men in Texas had tried to pull them apart, and these guys were linebackers, and they pulled them and they went flying. I went like that, and that's what I'm explaining there. Unfortunately, my wife's nose is in the way, so watch. Oh, I don't know how it got sideways there. Well, that's not too good. Anyway, you can see I whacked her pretty good. Choo, like that. And look at the reaction of the crowd here. See all the ladies go, and the men are like, oh, he hits his wife all the time. So anyway, that was kind of I didn't realize, I don't know why it's sideways on there, but anyway. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to talk about lightning this morning. That's an illuminating topic. Exodus 20:18 says, and all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet and the mountains smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off. There are few things that strike fear into the heart of man more than thunder and lightning. Are those fears overblown? I don't believe so. I grew up in southern New Jersey. I was born in Camden, New Jersey. And we used to go huckleberry picking. Do they have huckleberries up here? Huckleberries. Okay, we went huckleberry picking. And we were in the, picking, and there's a thunderstorm comes up, and I'm up to my ankles in water, running for the car, and the thunder's, lightning's flashing, and so forth. And then I felt the hair on my head start to go up. Okay, and you can see it kept going, but God went to heaven before I did. All right, and that's not a good sign when your hair goes up like that. And then the lightning bolt hit the tree right in front of me. And I felt that surge of electricity around my body. That was a scary experience for a 12-year-old boy. And lightning can be scary. These are 323 reindeer that were killed by one lightning strike. So reindeer, when they get scared by lightning, they all huddle together. And of course, the reindeer have a problem because they have front legs and back legs. And so there's a big potential difference between the front legs and back legs when the lightning hits the ground. And so lightning goes, around the whole herd like that, okay? And it dispatched all 323 reindeer. So it can be a dangerous thing. And so the best thing to do if you're out in open space is don't be like the reindeer. Don't keep your feet apart. Put your feet together like this. Try to get as low to the ground as you can, okay? And the lightning usually will go around you. And that's really an amazing thing, is that only 1/3 of people hit by lightning are actually killed by it, okay? Because the electrons in lightning try to stay as far away from each other, and so they go on the outside of your body rather than the inside of your body if they can do that. Now you may read some guys on the golf course who get hit by lightning and all his clothes are burned off. I often saw those news articles, and I thought, why are his clothes burned off? Well, it's because the lightning goes on the outside of the body. And so he's badly burned, but he survived the experience. So that's really amazing when you think that a lightning bolt can be 1 billion volts and have a temperature of 50,000 degrees. So the children of Israel were wise to back off for sure. I read of a woman who had a very great fear of thunderstorms. She was speaking at some sort of religious convention when a storm suddenly broke with a din of thunder and the flare of lightning. And above the noise of the elements, her voice was heard in shrill supplication, O Lord, take us under thy protecting wings, for thou knowest that feathers are splendid non-conductors. but that was a pretty good scientific prayer. So is lightning biblical? Well, it certainly is. Job 37. Job, by the way, even though it's the oldest book in the Bible, has more scientific insights than almost any other book of the Bible. You can get a lot of interesting things there, a lot of what we call scientific foreknowledge, things that the Bible knew about science before science figured it out. So Job 37:15, dost thou know when God disposed them, he's talking about controls the clouds, and caused the light of his cloud, or lightning, to shine. Now Job didn't know how God causes lightning, and I'm not sure that we completely understand it today, but I can give you our best scientific guess, okay? So every object, from the earth itself to the smallest particle, even the air we breathe, contains positive and negative charges. Now, don't ask me what charge is, because I don't know. Nobody knows. If you know, you'll get the Nobel Prize, but nobody knows. But here's what the dictionary definition of charge is. It says, the physical property of matter that causes it to experience a force when placed in an electromagnetic field. So that doesn't tell us anything, does it? It doesn't tell us, the definition, so it's interesting, you know, science is like that science makes a very poor religion because we can't even define even the basic terms that we work with. Now when I said charge, nobody said, what's charge? You know, tell us what charge is, you know, and nobody questioned me. If I say it with enough confidence, then people, you know, they just let me go, okay? But we don't have any idea what it is. And yet we talk about it all the time in science. And there's a lot of things like that in science. I mean, at least in theology, you know, theologians, they can define their terms. They may not agree with each other, but at least they can define their terms. But scientists can't even define the basic things that they work with. So it makes a very poor substitute religion, okay? The people are trying to make it into a religion, but it's not. Anyway, for the most common type of lightning, what you have here is the air is updrafting there, and that strips the charges off, and so you get positive charges at the top of the cloud and negative charges at the bottom of the cloud. And so you get this charge imbalance, and sometimes it balances the charge by cloud-to-cloud lightning, or sometimes cloud-to-ground lightning, okay? That'd be the most common type of electrical charge. Well, thunderclouds are not the only types of lightning. We saw that we can get like snowstorms, you can have lightning. Have you ever been in thunder snow? I've been in thunder snow. And dust clouds can do it. Even the volcanic clouds, you know, so the children of Israel, that's probably what they were experiencing at Mount Sinai. Job 37 verse 11 says, also by watering he wearieth the thick cloud, that is, he loads the clouds with moisture, he scattereth his bright cloud, that is, he scatters the lightning through them. So how does God do this? Well, when a lightning cloud is getting ready to discharge its lightning, it sends out a leader, okay? Now this leader is really small, just like, you know, pencil size, okay? And it sends out this leader, and up until this year, this is the first time we've been able to actually see a leader, okay? And we actually recorded it on, I got this out of, I think it was Science News. Oh, it's not that one. Oh, I don't have that picture in there. Oh, there it is. There's the leader. So what this, you can see it coming down. So that's not lightning there. That is actually the leader, okay, that's coming down, and one's coming up from the bottom. And when they connect, like this, then the lightning flashes. See, there's the lightning flash right there. So I think that's the first time, I think it was in March of this year, we recorded what a leader actually looks like. Let's talk about these leaders some more. I got a little ahead of myself here. Job 38:35 says, canst thou send lightnings that they may go and say, here we are. So how does the lightning know, how does it find a path the strike. Well, there are cosmic rays coming in from outer space. And these are energetic, charged particles that come in, some of them from distant galaxies. Okay? And right now, they're coming into the church and go zip, 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 and they're zipping through your bodies right now, and through the chairs and through the ceiling and so forth. And we're not aware of them. But those cosmic rays actually open up a little path for the leader to follow. And so that's why lightning always has that kind of jagged experience. So it's following the path of all those cosmic rays. So Job couldn't control where the lightning went, and we can't do it either. And we have no more ability than he had in his day to control where the lightning is going to go, because it's all based on where those cosmic rays are striking the earth. Here's some little known facts about lightning. So that lightning channel or leader is about 1/2 to 1 inch thick when it short circuits to the ground. The length of cloud to ground lightning may be as much as 10 miles long. We were in the Garden of the Gods. Did I have that one here? Yeah. So I was in the Garden of the Gods. This is in Colorado Springs. And so Pikes Peak, how many have been there, Garden of Gods, Pikes Peak? Okay, a few of you. Okay, so when you go into the Garden of Gods, they have this plaque there, and it says that to be careful that when there is lightning on top of Pikes Peak, you have blue sky and sunshine down there in the Garden of the Gods, it's possible you could get zapped by lightning. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with that information, but that's a picture of that. That's a picture of a lightning traveling 10 miles from the top of Pikes Peak down to the Garden of Gods, zapping some poor tourist that happens to be there. Okay. So that's amazing, isn't it? And then lightning travels at 100,000 miles per second. Yeah, it's pretty fast. One stroke of lightning can have enough energy to lift a 1-ton object 62 miles high. Lightning can strike as many as 40 times in the same channel. So once that channel's opened up, it can keep flashing through that channel. And that's the reason why people say lightning doesn't strike twice in the same place. They don't know what they're talking about. Okay. Okay. So it certainly can do that. So this verse here, so Job 38 says, "Who hath divided a way for the lightning and thunder to cause it to rain on the earth?" So you can think of this as a bit of scientific foreknowledge, okay? Because notice it says that the lightning causes it to rain. Well, when I was growing up, they always told me that the rain caused the lightning. Okay? Isn't that what you learned? So skeptics say, well, the Bible's wrong. It says here the lightning can cause the rain. Well, since that time, they've done experiments. And now you think about it, you see a cloud up there in the sky, and it's got little particles of, little drops of moisture up there, and it just goes right on by. You may need rain, but it just doesn't rain on you. Why do some clouds rain and some clouds don't? Well, each of those particles of water, drops of water, has a charge on it. And so there needs to be a force to push them together to get the drops large enough so they fall to the ground. And so actually when the lightning starts, that electromagnetic field that's formed in the cloud actually has enough force to push the droplets together and form rain. So here's something the Bible knew about, the fact that lightning can cause rain, before scientists figured it out. And that's only been during my lifetime they figured that out. So that's a bit of scientific foreknowledge. And that way for the lightning itself, the idea of a lightning leader, that's again something that we didn't know about until modern times. A lot of things about that. Now, if you read something in the Bible and it doesn't seem scientific to you, you don't know how it corresponds with our current scientific knowledge. As I was telling the kids the other day, I always quote this from Martin Luther. He said, give God the honor of being smarter than you are. Okay, so if there's something you don't understand, it doesn't work with the science you know about, probably your science is wrong. Okay, the Bible's always right, okay, always correct, always speaks scientifically accurate. And so a lot of times people, they can't understand something, and they say, well, the Bible must be wrong. Well, that's the wrong conclusion to reach. It's proved itself to be correct over many, many years. Well, let's talk about thunder a little bit. So what causes thunder? So when that lightning bolt goes down through the leader, it can heat up to like 20,000 degrees Celsius. That's about 3 times hotter than the surface of the sun. And the air temperature can go from 8,000 to 30,000 degrees Celsius. And so all that heat there causes the air to expand. You know, hot air expands, and it expands at supersonic speeds. Okay? And so what you're looking at is a sound wave that's causing a shock wave, kind of like, you know, if you ever used a bullwhip. You ever use a bullwhip? The cracker at the end of the bullwhip goes faster than the speed of sound, and so you get that cracking sound, okay, because of the shock wave. Well, that's a minor example of how the lightning causes the thunder. And you hear all sorts of different sounds, don't you? You say, why do I hear like explosions and cracklings and hissings and so forth? Well, it depends on, you know, how close it is to you, if the lightning is going towards you or away from you, if it's cloud to cloud or cloud to ground. It depends on the humidity, you know, the thickness of the air and so forth. So a lot of different factors involved there that gives us different sounds we associate with thunder. Well, since sound travels about 1/5 of a mile per second, you can count. You ever do that when you were a kid? I always count, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to see if I needed to take cover, how far away that thunder was from me. Well, here's how Job describes it. Well, here we go. He directeth unto the whole heaven. He unleashes his lightning beneath the whole heaven, and his lightning unto the ends of the earth. After it a voice roareth, he thundereth with the voice of his excellency. He will not stay them when his voice is heard. God thundereth marvelously with his voice. Great things doeth he, which we cannot comprehend. So, of course, thunder is not literally the voice of God, but is a demonstration of his power for which he is responsible. So, we've already seen these slides about the way of the lightning. I never get tired of seeing that. And then the flash. Okay, so is lightning useful for anything else besides showing God's power and majesty? And the answer is yes. It provides our daily need of the element nitrogen. Okay, so the air that we're breathing right now is 78% nitrogen. And nitrogen is held together, the atom, it's a diatomic molecule. There's 2 atoms held together by a strong triple bond, very strong bond. Well, we don't have the ability within our bodies to break that triple bond. That is, the nitrogen goes in, it goes out. We don't get any use from it at all because we don't have any mechanism to break those bonds apart. So God has designed 2 ways, at least before there was artificial fertilizers, 2 ways to break those bonds and get that nitrogen into the food chain, okay? So one was legumes, peas, things like that. They can, what we say, fix the nitrogen, can break those bonds and get nitrogen to attach itself to an oxygen or something else and allow it to get into the food chain, and then we eat the plants, or the animals eat the plants, we eat the animals, and then that nitrogen it makes proteins in our bodies. Without proteins, of course, we couldn't live, all right? And then the lightning can do that as well. Lightning is strong enough, it can break those triple bonds and get the oxygen into a form that we can use. So before the advent of artificial fertilizers, we estimate about half of our diet came from legumes and the other half came from lightning, okay? So it has a purpose other than just being pretty and showing God's power. Now, during World War I, there were 2 chemists in Germany named Bosch and Haber, and they were trying to fix nitrogen, not to help people. They wanted to make munitions. The British had cut off their source of nitrogen, and so they came up with the Bosch-Haber process, and we still use that today to make fertilizer, okay? And so probably half of your diet now, the nitrogen comes from artificial fertilizers, 1/4 maybe from lightning, 1/4 from legumes. just on a rough basis like that. Second, so here's a picture of lightning striking the Earth from space, from the space station. I thought you'd be interested. Look at how many lightning storms going on at the same time. We estimate there are 1,800 lightning storms around the Earth at any one time. At any particular moment, there's 1,800 lightning storms going on somewhere on Earth. And I just read an article last night. My wife could tell you I was looking at Science News. And we just discovered this year that lightning has the ability to form chemicals in the air that can remove pollutants from the atmosphere. They can clean the air. It actually creates molecules that can grab a hold of the pollution and allow the rain to wash it out of the air. And so I didn't know that. That's something I learned just last night, is lightning has this ability to clean the air. Okay? Wonderful how God engineered it for our good. Do you know lightning also gives us evidence of a young Earth? Okay? This is a fulgurite. How many of you have heard of fulgurites? One. I got one person heard of fulgurites. Okay. So fulgurites are fossilized lightning strikes. So when lightning hits the ground, it has so much power, it melts the sand and turns it into a column like that. So the one on top, that's like a horizontal fulgurite. It was made on the top of the ground as lightning went that way. And then you see how we have more vertical ones as well. Okay. And so there was a couple of scientists named Pasek and Hurst, and they're in Polk County, Florida, around the Tampa area. And they were trying to figure out how many fulgurites there should be. Okay, so they were estimating. You saw how many lightning strikes there are. They suggested that there are 45 bolts per second occurring around the Earth somewhere that are striking the ground, and about a quarter of those would be cloud-to-ground lightning. And so they were estimating how many fulgurites there should be. Okay? So they figured that there's about 10 fulgurites being formed every second based on that. So then they thought, well, how old's the Earth? Of course, they're secular scientists. And they said, well, the Earth is 4 billion years old. And so how many fulgurites should be in the soil there in Polk County, Florida? They came up with a figure of like 4,000 per square meter. Okay. Well, if there were 4,000 fulgurites per square meter, then everybody in this room would know what fulgurites are. Okay. Every time you tried to plant a garden, you go clank, you'd hit one of those things. Okay. They'd be everywhere. Okay. And so the fact that only one person in this room knew what fulgurites were is a powerful evidence for the young age of the Earth, that the Earth is only thousands rather than billions of years old. Anyway, I thought you'd find that to be a lot of fun. Okay, well, let's talk about how lightning is used in the Bible. We see it as a description of something that's indescribable. Okay, so here's a passage. So here's Ezekiel. He's trying to describe what he's seeing. And what he's looking at a cherubim. Okay, so he says, as for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance is like burning coals of fire, like the appearance of lamps that went up and down among the living creatures. And the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning, and the living creatures ran and returned as the appearance of the flashing of a lightning. Okay, so he's doing the best he can. He was familiar with the cherubim. They were represented on the ark, if you remember, on the curtains of the temple. The Assyrians, they had their own version of cherubim. You've ever seen those winged bulls that they have in Assyria? ISIS was trying to blow them all up back when they were in charge. And that was their idea. I don't know what a cherubim looked like. We've kind of lost that information. But here's the best description we have. Here's the 4 living beings. They're darting like bolts of lightning. And someday I expect to see cherubim with my own eyes, and I'll be able to gauge the accuracy of Ezekiel's description. I probably won't be able to do any better than he did. And Daniel saw something similar. Daniel said he lifted up his eyes, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with fine gold of Uphaz. His body also was like beryl, his face as the appearance of lightning, his eyes as the lamps of fire, and his arms and feet like colored to polished brass. The voice of his words like the voice of a multitude. Does that remind you of anything? Any other passage in the Bible? What does that sound like? Any other place that sounds like that same description? I think of Revelation, don't you? Where John, Apostle John, sees Jesus Christ. Okay, so the impression given to Daniel is like the entire body of the man in the vision, like a gigantic transparent jewel reflecting the glory of the rest of the vision. So I think we're talking about, a pre-incarnate vision of Jesus Christ. Okay, what we call a theophany. I was often thought about that. I thought, if when I die and I open my eyes and I see Jesus Christ for the first time, what will I see? What will he look like to me? And Fanny Crosby, it's interesting, our description of this, it comes from a blind woman. I thought that was interesting. She says, when my life work is ended and I cross the swelling tide, when the bright and glorious morning I shall know my Redeemer when I reach the other side, and his smile will be the first to welcome me. Then she says, oh, the soul-thrilling rapture when I view his blessed face and the luster of his kindly beaming eye. So luster is a word actually for lightning. Okay, and so I'm thinking, my first view of Jesus Christ is going to be, like that. It was so bright. And we see that in the Bible when Jesus appears. What did, John, he falls down as dead, okay? And Daniel, he falls down and so forth. So I wonder if that will be our experience. Matthew 28:3 said of Jesus, his countenance is as of lightning and his raiment as white as snow. And in the Mount of Transfiguration, he's described as his countenance was altered and his raiment was white and glistering. Glistering is an old English word for bright as a flash of lightning, okay? And then we see it as a symbol of something that happens quickly. After all, it travels for 100,000 miles per second, right? So pretty quickly. So here we're talking about the return of Christ, for his lightning cometh out of the east, shineth unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be, okay? It's you don't have to worry about missing the second coming, okay? It's going to be, everybody can see it. It's going to be bright, okay? And his power will be sudden and obvious like lightning. Nobody needs to point it out. On the other hand, think about the fact you're not going to have any warning, okay? If he comes, before I'm done speaking today, you won't have a chance to say, oh, I need to get my life in order, okay? I need to trust Christ, or I need to, I'm sorry, I need to ask for forgiveness or whatever. No, it's going to be like that. It's going to take place really, really fast. For as the lightning that lighteneth out of one part out of the east and shineth unto the west, so also shall the coming of the Son will be. Or this verse, for as the lightning that lighteneth out of one part of heaven shineth unto the other part of heaven, so also shall the Son of Man be in his day. Okay, it's going to be quick. Okay, so we talk about a twinkling of an eye. We also see it as a description of the humiliation of Satan. So here's a interesting verse. So you remember Jesus sends out the disciples, and he tells them to go 2 by 2 into all the land and do miracles and so forth. And they come back and they're all excited. They say, even the demons are subject to us. Okay? And this is what Jesus says. He says, and he said to them, I beheld Satan as lightning falling from heaven. Isn't that an odd thing to say? We would have said, that's really good, and that's wonderful, and so forth, trying to encourage him and so forth. But he said, I saw Satan as lightning fall from heaven. He's saying the spiritual advances that you made, the victories you've won as you traveled around, were a deadly, a mortal blow to Satan. It was like that time when Satan was cast from heaven, is what he's saying. That was that kind of experience, okay? It was a notable defeat for Satan. Now, I grew up in a Christian home in New Jersey, and I was saved at an early age. Like many of you, I was saved when I was 5 or 6 years old. at a summer Bible school. Summer Bible school at our church was like, not vacation Bible school, because it wasn't a vacation. We had report cards and textbooks and that kind of thing. But Mrs. Evelyn Thompson gave a flannel graph story to the children, to us, and it showed Jesus knocking on the door of your heart, and how it didn't have a handle on the outside, it only had a handle on the inside, and I had to let Jesus into my heart. And how many of you would like to ask Jesus Christ to come into your heart? And I put up my hand, okay, and I ran down the hall, and my mother was a teacher in another room, and I said, Mommy, I asked Jesus Christ to come into my heart. And she said, that's nice, let's go eat lunch. Okay, but if Jesus had been there, he would have said, I saw Satan fall as lightning from heaven. That's what he would have said, because he would have known something had transpired of a miraculous nature. A great defeat to Satan had taken place. And those of you who work with children, it can be discouraging because you don't know what's going on in their hearts, but it takes a long time, many times, to bear fruit and so forth. And so try to see it with Jesus' eyes. Understand that we're involved in spiritual battle in the hearts and lives of those children. And so bless you. Bless all of you, like Mrs. Thompson, who shared the gospel with me. Well, sometimes we get a bolt from the blue. So this is Martin Luther, and he's a lawyer, and he's traveling from one town to another in Germany. And a lightning bolt hits him, or gets close to him and knocks him down. Throws him across the field or whatever. And he's scared to death. He said, Saint Anne, help me, I'll become a monk. And so he checked out of the law school and he checked into the monastery. Now it's quite a few years after that when he actually got saved. But he was convinced of the power of God. And it's caused him to be seized with terror. Okay? But he knew that God was for real, even though he wasn't saved yet. In fact, the Bible says that once any man has seen the magnificence, the intricacies, the beauties of what's been created, then they have no excuse for not knowing that God exists. And if God is for real, we should be very interested in what he has to say about where we are now and where we are going. It says in Romans 1:20, for the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so they're without excuse. So what's saying here is he's saying everyone who's seen lightning is without excuse. Okay? And so who on earth has not seen lightning? Or at least if they're blind, they've at least heard thunder, okay? Had some experience of it. Should know something about the power of God. You want a small taste of what it's like to stand before God on the universe on Judgment Day? Go outside and stand in a severe thunderstorm. No, don't do that. Think about where you stand with him. So here's a story. This is by Captain Alan Bean, who was an Apollo astronaut, and he was writing about a time when lightning struck the Apollo capsule. So test pilots have a litmus test for evaluating problems. When something goes wrong, they ask, is this thing still flying? If the answer is yes, then there is no immediate danger, no need to overreact. When Apollo 12 took off, the spacecraft was hit with lightning. The entire console began to glow with orange and red trouble lights. There's a temptation to do something, but the pilots asked themselves, is this thing still flying in the right direction? The answer was yes, it's headed for the moon. They let the lights glow as they addressed the individual problems and watched the orange and red lights blink out one by one. That's something to think about in any pressure situation. Is your thing still flying? Think first and then act. The same principle applies to our lives. When a bolt from the blue strikes, whether figuratively or actually, that's a good time to take account of your life. 2 Corinthians 13:5 says, examine yourselves whether you be in the faith. Prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves how Jesus Christ is in you, except you be reprobates. Now sometimes people take this verse wrong. They think that Paul's asking them to question their salvation. But that's not what he's saying. In context, he's saying he believes that God is working in each of their lives, and that they should be able to look back on the course of their lives and see the direction that their lives are going. I had a secretary named Julie, and she had a rough life. Okay? She dropped out of school in order to marry her sweetheart. Nothing wrong with that. And she figured that he'd take care of her the rest of her life. And she had 2 children. And then he up and died. Got lung cancer and died. Didn't even smoke. Okay? And so here she is. She got 2 children to raise, no husband, no job skills. And it was tough. And then she got lupus. Okay? And then she got cancer, which finally took her life. And I can still remember coming into work, and she was doubting that she was even a Christian. She was doubting her salvation. I'm sure those of you who go to the hospital and talk to people that are very sick find that kind of thing. And so it's easy in an emotional time like that, when everything is dark, to think that God has abandoned you and that you're not really saved. What we're saying here, Paul is saying, no. Now, I remember talking to Julie and saying, now look at the course of your life. Think about when you trusted Christ as Savior, and think about the decisions you made to serve Christ all along. Think about how you raised your children for the Lord, and so forth. And I'm trying to show her that her space capsule is going to the right place. She was headed for heaven. And that's the encouragement we're supposed to get. Okay? So it may be that you may lose your mind. Okay? A lot of people get dementia and so forth, and you'd say, well, I can't even think straight. But it doesn't depend on your mind. It doesn't depend on your emotional state. Okay? It depends on Jesus Christ. And we should be able to look at the course of our lives and say, yes, I'm headed for the right place. So I hope that's an encouragement to you someday when you perhaps find yourself in that situation. So like the astronauts, we may see the console of our lives glow with trouble lights after lightning strikes. And by examining our works, we can tell if our lives are pointed in the right direction. Lightning is all-inspiring. It points us to our even more all-inspiring God. Next time you see a lightning bolt or hear the crack of thunder, you should think of these things in rapid succession. Number 1, am I in a safe place? Okay. Number 2, the Creator God is in control of the world, and I'm not. Okay, I can't make it lightning. I can't determine where the lightnings go. I was talking in a school chapel, and this girl came up to me. She said, my father was going out to get wood outside, and a lightning bolt hit him and killed him. Why did God allow that to happen? Okay. We have no control over that, where the lightning is going to strike. It could happen to any one of us. Number 3, God designed lightning for my good. Okay, it gives me food to eat, and it cleans the air. Number 4, Jesus looks like lightning, or at least he can look like lightning. And number 5, I'm not afraid of unexpected events, because I can see in the evidence of the way I live my life that I'm a child of God. Okay? I hope that's an encouragement to you today. We have a couple minutes. Any questions about anything we talked about today? Yes?
The last that you said now, isn't that like trusting your work instead of
Well, the question is it like trusting your works instead of truly trusting the Lord? And the answer is, no, we're looking at the pattern of our lives. Okay, we're looking at our past pattern of our lives and decisions we've made and how God has acted in our lives. And we're looking to him because he's the one who's been active in our lives all the way. So we're looking at how God has acted in our lives all the way along. Okay? And we can see that. We can see that he's been our Father and our brother and our Savior, all the way along. And there's no reason to think that he's abandoned us now. It's like that, that little thing, that meme they do where they show the footprints in the sand, that type of thing. We can't see him, okay, but then we can see evidence that he's with us all the time. So he's right here. He's right here with us all the time. I can't visually see him, but I, by faith, believe that he's here. You're welcome. Good question. Anything else? Yes?
Back to your comment about lightning, I would think, and I'm not a scientist, science was not my strong point, but the heat of the lightning bolt, I would think, would just kill it.
So what it actually does, it actually rips those molecules apart and recombines them. So you're getting getting ozone, and some people have like ozonators in their homes to purify the air. So that's the kind of thing we're talking about now, and nitrous oxides and that type of thing. So it just reassembles the atoms, and then they glom onto the pollution particles, and they they put them in a form that the rain can then solubilize them and get them out of the air. Okay. I didn't know that until last night. I just found that out last night. I got to put that into my message. That's the trouble with my messages; they always change. See, Pastor, he preaches from the Bible, and he used the same message in his whole life, but I have to keep changing mine. Okay. Yes.
Another question, how, what you're saying, the temperature of this and
Yes.
that,
Yes.
the speed of the other, how is that measured? I mean, it sounds like what you're saying it with confidence, but how do I know that it was measured?
Well, you can see the high-speed camera, so they know how many frames per second it is, and it's so fast. This is the first time we've ever captured it on film like that. So we had this year we've directly measured the speed. Okay, but you can also measure it because of thunder. Count 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. So you know how far away it is and so forth. So even when I was a kid, I could measure it.
What about temperature? And when it's so high, penetrate? I mean, how do you measure that?
I don't know how they measured that. That's a good question. I don't know how they measured that directly. But I suppose they did experiments in the laboratory with lightning bolts that they've manufactured, and measured it with a thermometer. Yeah, I don't know exactly how that was done. Yes?
When those formations are made when the lightning gets like sand turned into glass,
Fulgurite, yes.
they measure the amount of time the lightning, they melt sand into glass to reach a certain temperature at a certain time. So the lightning's only there for 100th of a second. They would say, well, it had to reach
Yes,
temperature for
right.
100th of a second.
That's true.
Same results.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, Fulgurites would teach us that. Yeah, good, thank you for that. Okay, well, I'm out of time, but I'll be happy to talk to you in between the service, and we have another service to come.
Amen. Well, thank you for that. Learned a lot this morning. Fulgurites, who knew? I don't know. It sounds like something they used to do on horse carriages or something. I don't know. But anyway, wonderful. Just absolutely wonderful. And you got a little time, and I can't help but tell you there's Mr. Sticky's back there. So you're definitely going to want to take a little break and grab a Mr. Sticky and a cup of coffee, and we'll be back in here before you know it. So, yes. Yes. There is a literature table, and you want to, and also they had these, do you have the, let me see that. I'll just talk about that a second. They have this is a Sheffy. It was a movie that was done many years ago by Bob Jones. I saw it back when it came out, and it's been totally digitally remastered, and it's a great movie. Great for a family night or whatever. And they have those if you would like to purchase one. So,
My wife has them. She'll take your money.
great.
$15.
$15. So there you go. All right. Thank you, and we'll be back here shortly.